You're listening to Just Hit Play with your hosts, Peter and Nick Cabral. If you're tired of your stagnant, streamed music feed, then strap yourselves in for an intergenerational sonic journey through Peter and Nick's favorite songs.
Welcome to episode 54 of Just Hit Play. I'm your host, Peter. With me is my co-host, Nick. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been super hot the last 2 days, and my new place doesn't have AC. So I'm just sweating buckets, and I've had a busy week so far, but it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to call this one the COVID episode because guess who got COVID?
I was going to ask. You sound a little under the weather.
Yeah.
It's been the vid.
Yeah, it's been a week. I got it when I was away. So we talked about in the last episode, I was going to go away for about 4 days to the Gold Coast. And on my second day there, I was out photographing on the beach, and I just coughed. No big deal, just a single cough. I was like, "Oh, that was weird." and then that night, I go back to the room I'm staying at. It's an apartment on the Gold Coast, beautiful view of the ocean, and I'm packing up my stuff for the next morning to make sure I got all my gear ready to go for the next morning. And then I coughed a couple more times. I was like, "Oh, that's weird." I was like, hope I'm not coming down with something. And then it just got worse, like progressively worse. Like hour by hour, I just went down and down and down. And I woke up in the morning, I had no voice. I had to be at the school by 6, I think. And I ended up calling my boss at like 5. I was like, there's no way I can do this. And I didn't sleep all night because I was coughing all night. And yeah, so that was me for 2 days. And the bad thing is I didn't know if I had COVID, right? So because I was stuck in this apartment. Luckily, the owner of the apartment was around, so I quickly messaged him, and he was really sweet. He actually brought me a mask and some Panadol or some aspirin. And so that was really helpful. Then I put on a mask, and I went to the local convenience store, bought a rat test. I don't know what they're called over there. The rapid antigen test is.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so I did that, and then I sort of forgot about it. And a few hours later, I was like, oh, shit, I forgot to check the results. And I had double lines. I was like, oh, okay. So I had very little food on me. I had a few granola bars. I think I had like half a banana. But I wasn't that hungry. Like my appetite was totally suppressed. And then I was there for another 2 days. So I just stayed in the room for 2 days and didn't really go anywhere. And then driving from the Gold Coast back to Brisbane, where I live, was the worst. Like it was like it took everything out of me. So that's been me this week.
God damn, not quite the trip you were hoping to have. The work trip on the beautiful Gold Coast where you can enjoy the beach and vibes.
I enjoyed it I enjoyed it for 2 days, and then I got really ill. Yeah, so I lost so much work. I was supposed to work 3 days this week. I'm only working 1 day this Saturday. I had to get, like, while I'm probably not contagious anymore, I still have a really wet cough, and I don't want to be around people.
Yeah. You don't want to just be coughing
while
photographing people. It's not a good look.
No, and so like there's like kids involved, and and I was going to go away for another 2 days. I was going to leave today to go away for another 2 days, but I don't want to be around my coworkers coughing, and it was like 4 of us I think were going, and so they found someone else to take my spot. So yeah.
Well, that's a bummer. Sorry to hear about that. I'm glad you're feeling slightly better now, despite the wet cough. But yeah, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, so that's been the week. And I listened to last week's episode. I want to clarify something. I think I misspoke about something on the episode.
Okay.
I intimated that the Smiths were not a big band. Let me refute that right now. They were a huge band. I think what I meant to say was that they never sold on the same level as the U2 or Madonna or Whitney Houston. I think they should have been at that level. They were not at that level. So that's what I meant by a big band. Obviously, when you offer a band $75 million to reunite, they were a pretty big band.
Yeah, that's a substantial offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you meant they're not huge global pop icons.
No.
They weren't that level, but they were still quite a large, very popular band.
Yeah, people love the Smiths and Morrissey. They love Morrissey. And so I didn't want to make it sound like, they were this tiny little indie band that, that released this song. No. They were huge. The Smiths were absolutely a huge band. So I wanted to make sure I got that clear before we begin.
I went to a party that my friend Thomas was having over this last weekend. And while I was there, the Smiths and the Cure and the Velvet Underground actually, I made friends because of those bands.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I just started talking to these two guys about music, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we mostly listen to older music, 80s bands, 70s bands." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm really getting into the Cure. I just listened to Disintegration, by the way, whole album.
Right? How good is that?
Phenomenal."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, I love the Cure, the Smiths, getting into the Velvet Underground, all that." And yeah, made good friends because of that. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Let's help me get along with other early 20-year-olds talking about
other humans.
Bands.
Yeah. Let's quickly talk about Disintegration. Is there
amazing?
Do you remember when I said they should, the Smiths, the Cure, they should be bigger bands because those albums are just masterpieces.
Well, there was definitely a huge change in their philosophy from Disintegration to
yes, there was,
Just Like Heaven and Friday I'm in Love, those types of songs.
Sure, yeah.
It's like they made a conscious decision, okay, we're sick of not being rich. I don't know, maybe they were rich before, but we're sick of not being filthy rich and having radio hits.
Yeah, Friday I'm in Love certainly made them some money.
I'm not surprised in the slightest by that. It's a really great pop song nonetheless. But Disintegration is so ambitious and just really experimental. They swung for the fences on that album, and I think it resulted in incredible music. Not only incredible, but it just sounded to me like you can clearly see how it influenced so many bands that I love.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about at least shoegaze music when we get to the Jesus and Mary Chain song, but I can definitely see the Cure's hand in creating that genre as well.
Yeah. No, and you're right. I think Jesus and Mary Chain are an interesting band that would have been heavily influenced by the Cure. They came out a few years after the Cure. I love Jesus and Mary Chain, so I'm curious to see what you thought about that. But before we get into any of that, your song's up first. So we're going to listen to Rex Orange County.
Yeah. We tried Rex a few episodes ago, and I messed up. And for any listeners who haven't heard that episode, I overlooked the fact that there's a rapping segment of that song. Four Seasons is the one that we did that episode. And if we face the facts, it's not a very good rapping performance at all.
No, it's not.
You didn't like it. I can't blame you. But we agreed that we'd give Rex another shot.
Sure.
So I humbly submitted for your consideration a song that I felt really exemplifies his strengths without highlighting his weaknesses, like rapping. So, Darren, why don't you just hit play on Pluto Projector by Rex Orange County?
The Great Protector, is that what I'm supposed to be? What if all this counts for nothing? Everything I thought I'd be. What if by the time I realize it's too far behind to see? 70 mil projector, I can show you everything.
Right, so this was from his album After, the one that Four Seasons was on. It's a bit more recent, he's more mature as an artist, and yeah, I think it's a fantastic song, but more importantly, what do you think? Better than Four Seasons?
Much better. I didn't mind Four Seasons. I just didn't like the rapping. It took me so out of that song. And it's funny thinking about it, because I had no other context of his music to apply to. I couldn't forgive him for the rap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't go, oh, he's trying, bless his heart. I couldn't do that, right? So I was just like, oh, this is shit. But this song is amazing. I think it's another really great example of a headphone song.
Yes.
The melody is great. The instrumental bit in it is really, really good. So yeah, I really dug it.
Good. I'm very delighted by that answer because, yeah, I think it's a really, really great song. And what's cool about following an artist who's so young, he's a 24-year-old, and it's really cool seeing an artist mature from album to album, literally grow up and turn into an adult. Their writing gets more mature. They're starting to get a little deeper, less, or more abstract, you could say, with the lyrics, and not even just the lyrics, but compositions and things like that. And this song, perfect example of that for me.
Yeah, I loved the instrumental part of the song. I thought it just swelled, and it's so funny how there's little bits of song in it. Like, it wasn't a consistent song throughout the 4.5 minutes. It was just these little bits of vignettes that played. I thought that was really, really fascinating, and sort of against modern convention, if you will, too.
Yeah, the songwriting is super unique, and that's something that is consistent with Rex Orange County. Four Seasons was another song that really swung for the fences in the songwriting aspect, and having 4 distinct segments of the song to match the seasons. So clearly he's very interested in trying new things with songwriting as a whole. And as I always say, I love when artists experiment. Even if it's a miss, I still like when they swing. And so that's something I respect him for. Absolutely. And yeah, you said it right when you said the song swells, especially that orchestra.
Now, do you mind if I go off on just a tiny bit of a tangent?
Go crazy.
Okay. I thought about this when I was laid up in my sick bed for 2 days, living in my misery, and how important art and how important music is. Now, you talked about swinging for the fences. I think it's important that artists, and I'm not counting myself as an artist, I'm just talking about the mystical artist, that they swing for the fences, like as you said, and they should not have any fear of being laughed at or people laughing with them or at them. Their job as an artist is to really make people think. Now, not think as in, oh, this song is amazing. Like, think as in an emotional sort of thing. If you think about, we discount poetry, we discount music in our daily lives because it's not really, really necessary. But when something happens to us, like if someone dies, we look for poetry for meaning in our lives. We look for a stanza of poetry to speak at someone's funeral. We talk about, oh, what's the song I'm going to listen to what's the song everyone's going to listen to at my funeral? They don't say, what's my casket going to look like? Well, some people do probably. It's really, music and art is so important, and we don't give artists really what they deserve. I think, during like Mozart time and Beethoven, where artists were looked after and there's patrons for artists, that is really gone. And record labels, for all intents and purposes, are supposed to do that, but steal money a lot from artists. And so when you said swing for the fences, that had an effect on me, and that's just what I wanted to say. I'm glad that we have people like like Rex, who are swinging for the fences.
Absolutely. Like I couldn't agree more with everything you've just said. And it's a shame that the music industry is the way it is. And yes, there's good with the bad, but at the end of the day, a lot of what's popular, at least, and what the majority of people are exposed to, a lot of that music, while it's made with creativity and intent, I'm sure its main intention is to make money. Whether the artist doesn't see it that way, the label sees it that way. And when you're at that level, you're a pop star, or you're a rock band or a singer or a rapper with a huge audience, you're still being influenced by the label to make creative decisions that are safe, will still return on their investment. And I think a lot of my favorite artists, a lot of the artists I have a lot of respect for, find a way to still swing for the fences, and they don't care if they get ridiculed. Case in point, Kanye West. That's why he's my favorite artist. That's what I always tell people when they ask why, is that that man has zero fear as to how he's perceived, how his music is perceived, his fashion, all of his endeavors. He'll just do whatever he wants, whatever he feels like. And there's many other artists that operate in that way, and those are the ones keeping the soul of this industry and the art form alive.
Have you? There's a singer called Halsey. I don't know if you know her.
I do.
Yeah, I don't know what her music sounds like. I don't have a clue. Her single, the record company delayed her single because they were trying to create a TikTok movement to release with the single, and she's been begging them to release the single for months now. But they wanted this viral sort of moment to coincide with the single. Eventually, it kind of happened because her fans demanded that the song be released. And so now the record company is actually releasing the song ahead of any TikTok viral moment, which I guess the fans did an old school viral moment of demanding the song be released. So it's weird, isn't it?
I think that what exactly that situation you just described, I think that was entirely manufactured by the record label. Like,
of course.
Like cynically, like I've seen a lot of people online share this, like they probably gave her the script for that TikTok that she made that said, guys, they won't let me release my single unless I get this viral moment. Like, the record label screwing me over. They probably gave her that idea.
Yeah, no, it's you're right. It's so cynical.
That was the viral moment, and that went way more viral than if she were to make like some TikTok dance or something. Her complaining about her record label and it framing it as like, oh, they won't let me release, they're trapping me. I'm sure everyone involved with the situation knew very well what they were doing.
Yeah,
and that's crazy because that's so manipulative.
Yeah. It is, and you know, there was a lot of money in music recording. There still is. You know, there's no bigger entity right now than Spotify. They just take all the money for themselves. You know, and they don't give much to the artist anymore. The world has definitely changed, and you need these. You don't need radio airplay. You don't need much music. You don't need MTV anymore. You just need things to go viral. It's crazy how much things have changed.
If you really want to achieve that higher tier of wealth and success in music, then yeah, you do. Yeah. A lot of artists will make a really good living just doing their thing. Indie artists, they're not living like super lavish lifestyles, but they're making a really, really solid living just touring, putting out albums every couple years. And that's cool, and it must be fantastic to be able to earn a really good living playing music. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. In order to get to that really high tier, you got to go viral.
You do.
And it's just part of the world. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't want to sound like 40 years older than I am and complain about it, but it's just how it is.
It is a very different world, especially, yes. So with Rex, I think I asked this the last question. I think the answer is no. You haven't seen him in concert.
I haven't, no, but I'd be very curious to.
And he's an American, or is he an English singer?
He's an English singer.
I guess I got thrown out by the Orange County, which is in LA. I keep thinking he's American because of that. Yeah.
Right. He actually got that name because one of his teachers in grade school called him Rex OC. His real first name is Rex, but his last name is O'Connell. So they shortened it to OC, and then he turned that into
the
Orange
OC.
County.
That was a really bad TV show back in the day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I very fortunately never saw an episode.
Neither have I, but I've heard of it. Not interested.
No.
Well, I really am glad that you like this song because he's too creative of an artist for me to have let you think that your first impression of him was entirely accurate. So I'm really glad that you gave this a shot, that it contextualized 4 seasons for you.
Yeah.
And he's a cool artist. So
yeah, I really dug the song. Even in the last little bit where there was kind of a hip hop moment, he didn't do it. And so it was done really well. Great song. Loved it.
Cool. Well, I guess without further ado, we should probably move on. I'm very excited.
All right. So let's go on to the Jesus and Mary Chain off the album Psycho Candy and the song Just Like Honey. Before we get into it, Darren, just hit play. It sounds like this song had a reaction. You had a reaction to this song. So tell me about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it?
You're on a roll. That's the main thing. You're on a roll right now, and I'm starting to think you may have got me figured out. I'm addicted to this song. I can't stop playing it. Every so often, I feel like I just need a fix. I need my fix of just like honey.
Yeah.
I'm just craving it. This song is wonderful.
Yeah.
All the adjectives, all the positive adjectives, apply them to this song. They're so good.
I thought maybe you'd heard the song before because it was heavily featured on Lost in Translation, the Bill Murray Scarlett Johansson movie. So I wasn't sure if you'd seen it or heard it from that movie.
Well, I love that movie. That's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
And the song sounded familiar.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Lost in Translation either, maybe not in this episode,
Sure.
fully, but next episode, there's going to be a big segment on that movie.
Okay, cool.
So,
Yep.
I definitely recognized it from that movie.
I love
at
that
least
movie.
when it does sound.
I love that movie as well. That's a good movie.
Anyone listening, sorry to cut you off, but if
Yeah.
anyone listening hasn't watched Lost in Translation, I mean, it's a different movie. It's a slow burn,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah, it's a good film. So the brothers Reed are a Scottish duo who don't really like each other that much. They're sort of similar to the Gallagher brothers, and this song was off their debut album Psycho Candy, as I mentioned, and it came out in 1985. They had been around for about 5 years, and according to them, those 5 years, it was spent just living off the dole and trying to figure out how to be musicians and be in a band. And what was happening in England in the music scene at the time was this really big new wave scene. You had, Duran Duran, oh god, how many other bands was there that were releasing synth music? And they decided Tears for Fears. They decided to go, and they were going to be just a guitar band, and that's pretty much what they are. The Jesus and Mary Chain are a guitar band.
They're certainly a guitar band. There must be there's got to be at least like bare minimum 4 different guitar tracks on this song.
Now the drums at the beginning of the song is from "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes. They ripped it off from that song. So Darren, just give us the first little bit of "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes. So that's the drum sound. They just completely ripped it off. They ripped it off. Let's say I'm going to say they ripped it off in 1985.
Maybe they didn't credit them, and so then they ripped them off. Okay, if they didn't credit them or pay them, then yeah, they ripped it off.
This was their 3rd single off the album. The album did relatively well, but this sort of was the big one for the time. Yeah.
So you like this song? I'm assuming the rest of the album sounds like this, or similar vibe.
I love the Jesus and Mary Chain. Yeah.
So you like shoegaze music then?
I do, but very specific shoegaze music. I think it has to have the attitude of Jesus and Mary Chain for me to like shoegaze music. Yeah.
Interesting. What do you mean? What do you think their attitude is? Describe that to me.
Very much like Oasis. They've had fist fights on stage with each other. There's been riots. They're the most nonplussed looking motherfuckers I've ever seen in my entire life. They could not give a rat's to be on stage. Some people get really excited and amped up, and they live off the audience and they give energy back to the audience. No, not Jesus and Mary Chain. They don't do any of that. They're just on stage.
Okay. Noted. So while I was listening to this song, all I could think about on my first listen, all I could think about was this is shoegaze music, at least in spirit.
It is.
But I was a little thrown off because shoegaze, as it is, what we think of when we say shoegaze, that didn't really start being made until the 90s, and this is 85.
Yep.
So, I looked it up, and all of the first big shoegaze bands, My Bloody Valentine, Slowdive, Ride, they all said they were so heavily inspired by this album.
It was
I
It's
completely see it.
it's goth shoegaze. That's what the music is, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They create a wall of sound and noise. They embrace the fuzz and imperfections, and
Oh,
it's layer on top of layer on top of layer of guitar with different effects on it.
yeah.
And they push the lyrics and the vocals to the side.
Mm-mm.
Um, and shoegaze, proper shoegaze music, uh, the lyrics are like the back. They're all the way at the back of the room.
Right.
The vocal track. So I think this is like
Mm.
a type of proto shoegaze. So they haven't really gone all the way in that direction, but they're getting there. And it's as a huge lover of that type of music, listening to this song is just such a cool experience to
Yeah.
see sort of where it all started and where it all comes from.
Um, they have an album out that came out in 1994, which I believe was called Stoned and Dethroned, which is probably my favorite album from them.
Okay.
So I would say, to continue your deep dive into the Jesus and Mary chain, maybe give that one a listen to. It's a little bit more acoustic. They're a little bit older, but yeah, it's a good album.
Stoned and Dethroned.
I believe that's what it's called.
That's a great album name. That's a really good one.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a lot of shows in the 90s. I saw a lot of bands in the 90s. I never saw Jesus and Mary Chain for whatever reason. And they were around. I just never got to see them.
I feel like that would be one of the loudest concerts you could go to.
Yeah.
That's typical of a lot of bands, shoegaze bands like Jesus and Mary Chain.
Yeah.
Apparently, people who've seen them say that it's just the absolute loudest concert they've ever been to. I think My Bloody Valentine actually hands out earplugs at their shows because they crank all the levels so high.
I saw a show, and I think they were opening up for the Smashing Pumpkins. It was either Slow Dive or Ride. I don't think it was Ride. It might have been Slow Dive. I think I saw.
I'm so jealous.
I think I saw them.
I love Slow Dive. I love them so much.
Yeah, they're all right.
Their music's just so pretty to me. It just makes me want to like sway in a field on a sunny day.
Yeah,
that's how Slow Dive makes me feel.
I was very lucky in my 20s to know a DJ at the local radio station who used to pass a lot of tickets to me. So I never had want to see shows. I could just pretty much see whatever I wanted to see. But I never saw Jesus and Mary Chain. Yeah, so it's quite tragic.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it about this song? Is there any particular aspect of this song or the band's catalog as a whole that you love? Like, is it the way they do the guitar? Do you love the singer's voice? Is it the overall vibe? Or
not so much the voice. He can't really sing.
No.
His singing ability is pretty weak. I think it's just, I think it's the vibe of the band. I think they make really, really beautiful music, simple music, which I like as well. I think the fuzz of the guitar in this song specifically is so good. And because I grew up in the 80s and with the two brothers that I had, I definitely wasn't into this kind of music growing up. I got into this music in the 90s when I started to delve back into alternative music, and I started listening to The Cure a lot and Jesus and Mary Chain and the Smiths. That's when, and the Pixies and all those kinds of stuff. That's when I got back into like the sound that I didn't grow up with. Your dad definitely doesn't listen to this kind of music.
Well, that's also another line of thought I had is I've never heard my dad listen to stuff quite like this. And so I was curious like how you got exposed to it, because I know a lot of older music, if it wasn't being played on the radio, you would hear it. If my dad liked it and he had an album, or Uncle Lou, if he liked that band, then you would hear it through him.
Right.
So I was curious how you got put onto this band and just this type of music as a whole.
So from your dad's, because your dad is 6 years older than me and Lou is 10 years older than me. So I got my love of the 70s and a little bit more of the popular 80s stuff from them. So my education in the 60s and 70s and Styx and Tears for Fears and things like that, I definitely would have got influence from your father and my brother Lou. I listened to pretty much top 40 at the time, which wasn't the Jesus and Mary Chain
No.
or the Smiths or the Cure. It wasn't until, Nirvana happened and Pearl Jam and the alternative music scene started to really become not alternative music, but music. And that we're like, okay, well, who inspired Nirvana? Oh, the Pixies inspired Nirvana. I was like, oh, cool. Okay. Got into the Pixies. Who inspired the Pixies? And then sort of, just went back and back and back from there. So that's how we sort of got into it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And I can imagine that requiring more work in the 90s than it does
Yes.
now with the internet, because it's really easy for me to do things like that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you must have had to put a lot of work in and do a lot of research.
Oh, there was nothing on demand. I couldn't click a button and hear anything. I either had to buy it and go, do I like this? Or listen to copious amounts of radio, which I did.
Yeah, that's unbelievable to me, because I commute to work now for my summer job. It's a 40-minute drive each way. And so that's a lot of time that I have in the car. And my favorite thing to do is just listen to an album I've never heard before, because that's 40 minutes that I'm a captive audience.
Yep.
So almost every day now I listen to a brand new album that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Maybe something I've heard of but never got around to, something inspired by a song you've showed me on the podcast.
Sure.
And just with the way music streaming is, I'm currently sampling a ton of music with minimal investment, other than time I would have been driving anyway. Whereas you would have had to go and buy a CD, not even knowing if you were going to like it.
Well, I predate CDs. I did my first car. Well, let me tell you about my first car. My first car was a 1982 Mustang. Okay. This is way before you were born. This is probably like 5-6 years before you were born. Okay. And it was a piece of shit. The front seat, the welding of the seat had sort of broken apart, so it wasn't really attached to the car. One side was, but if I had ever gone to an accident, I don't know what would have happened.
Oh my God.
The front door, like the driver's side door, I couldn't close it from the inside. The hinge had broke. So I didn't have enough strength to lift the door and close it, because you actually had to like pick it up. I had to do that from the outside, which meant for me to get into the car, I had to climb through the window. Right?
Oh my God.
And for years, it didn't have a radio. Well, not years. I didn't have it that long, but I would say for the first 6 or 7 months, my car didn't even have a radio. So I was driving just in silence. And I didn't get a radio until my friend Steve broke into a forklift and took the radio out of the forklift, and we installed it in the car.
Damn. Shout out Steve, because he saved you from, to be honest, he saved you from a pitiful existence. Well, I can't drive in silence at all.
And what a momentous occasion was when we first heard music coming through the Mustang. It was
I can imagine.
It was a glorious event, I'll tell you.
I actually I compulsively have to be listening to something while driving.
Yeah, even when I sleep now.
Oh, really?
I can't sleep in silence. I actually have to have a podcast playing. I have to have some kind of noise or someone speaking for me to sleep. It's weird. I don't know if I was to go back in time. If I was to go back to the 80s when I was a kid, I don't know how I would fall asleep, because there was nothing like that, right?
I haven't gotten to that point. I don't know if I ever will, because fan is about the only noise I can comfortably tolerate while I'm trying to sleep.
Right.
But driving is a completely different story. If I have to drive, if I'm driving 2 minutes to I don't know, a convenience store or something at the gas station, I will still plug in my phone, scroll through to find the song I want to hear, or pick a playlist. And that can take 5 minutes. That's longer than the actual drive, is me selecting what I'm going to listen to for the 2 minute drive.
Yeah, we're the same. If I'm going to get a cup of coffee up the road, I'm either putting on a podcast or I'm putting on some kind of music to drive 2 minutes. Yeah, you're right. I can't do it in silence anymore either. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
yeah. No, it's funny how technology has sort of melded into our lives, and I think it's not going to be that far off where we're actually wearing technology. When I say wear technology, I mean like embedded in the skin sort of,
Right.
technology, right? I think that's not that far off, really. And the whole, did I ever think that I could, order movie tickets as I was driving to the movie theater and then just show up and show them a little screen on my phone back in the 80s? Did I ever think that was going to be a possible thing? No. So I'm assuming that, antenna in my head is not really on my radar either. So, I'm assuming that it'll happen. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people that they have AirPods in their ears more than they don't have them in their
Yeah,
ears. Like
I've seen that. Yeah.
for like 8-10 hours a day, they'll have at least one AirPod in. I'm not naming any names, but a lot of my friends, people I know, it's and they just like having stuff playing all the time.
Yeah.
I can't personally do it.
Yeah.
It hurts my ears, honestly, if they're in for that long. But yeah, it's
No,
that's where that's the point we're getting to,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a bad thing per se. But yeah,
Yeah, it's almost like a drug in a way. It's this constant need for distraction from
Right.
our conscious thoughts. It's interesting.
yeah, that's definitely what it is for me, at least. Sometimes, like when I'm driving, and it's like, oh well, I need to throw music on right now. Like just sitting here in silence while I'm driving, that seems like a terrible prospect.
No, you're right. It is, and I don't do well in long periods of silence myself. So I actually have something because I have some things that have happened in my life that I haven't dealt with yet, and
Right.
I know that check is coming one day, and I know it's in the mail, but I haven't dealt with it yet, and I'm not going to deal with it soon. So as soon as I drive somewhere in silence, so I'm still good with the music being played.
Yeah. Well, who needs therapy when you've got music, right?
Right, and that's what I talked about earlier. Keep making music, because I remember when I had when my heart was broken for the first time,
Yes.
and I listened to the Strokes, the first Strokes album, over and over and over again. I have no idea why it would happen to be the Strokes,
That's interesting.
like why it was the Strokes or why that album specifically. It just come out, and I really dug that garage sort of sound. And so I just listened to that album over and over again. Instead of dealing with my problems, I just listened to the Strokes. Yeah.
Hey, that we all do that. So
Sure. Yeah. It was neat. No, I like that kind of remembering back on those things and go, wow, I wonder why did I do that? Yeah, the psyche is an amazing thing.
it is. It is. Some if any psychologist just happens to be listening to this episode, there's an idea for a thesis project. Study the need for constant distraction and survey people or research people who always have their AirPods in, and
Yes.
see what's going on in that psyche.
We are
And,
curious.
Yeah, and then shoot us a link to your paper in like 6 years.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd like to read that actually.
Yeah.
We're going to speed things up a little bit because my voice is starting to go. Do you have a song for me next week?
Have you listened to My Bloody Valentine before?
I do not know any Bloody Valentine at all. So
Really?
yeah, not I've never been really
Okay.
exposed to their music.
Okay. Then When You Sleep by My Bloody Valentine.
Cool.
This album, Loveless, one of my all-time favorite albums, without a shadow of a doubt. So I'm very excited.
I talked about it in a few episodes ago of getting you to listen to 80s music, but from females.
Right.
So you're going to listen to Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill. I don't know if you know that song.
No, maybe I'll know it when I listen to it, but right now I'm drawing a blank. So
So Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill.
awesome. I'm excited.
That's your song. Okay. Let's get to This Week in Music History.
This week in music history.
Okay. We have a new song in 1973 that went to number 1.
Nice.
It's a song called My Love by Paul McCartney, which is a song I'm not that familiar with, but I really liked it. I don't know why I hadn't heard before, but it's just one of those songs that I can't remember ever hearing. So this was number 1 in 1973 on this day. My Love by Paul McCartney.
And when I go away, I know my heart can stay with my love. It's
Okay. In the year 2000, Maria Maria is still number one. Do you understand now why I hate this song so much?
Yeah, I was thinking about while you were talking about the Paul McCartney song, I was like, is this the week? Is this the week that Maria Maria's not? Nope, still there.
No, and yeah, it's just 20 years later, and it's still fucking me. It's
you can't escape, and you probably never will be able to.
It'll
resurface another 20 years from now.
Oh no, just torment. It'll torment me again. So we're going to listen to the number 15 song this week, called "Other Side" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So,
I love this song.
Darren just hit play.
How long will I slide?
Okay, I actually like this song, but let me tell you something about the Chili Peppers.
Yeah, go off.
I can't stand them. I can't.
Somehow I knew that. I knew that before you said it.
I loved the Chili Peppers in the 90s. They were one of my favorite bands. I listened to all their albums. And I don't mind this song. I don't. I like the other sides. It's actually one of their better songs. But if they come on the TV, or if I'm listening to a streaming service and their song comes up, I'm skipping that thing as fast as I can. I think they sound so dated and so immature now. I can't stand them.
Their singer's voice really bothers me a lot of the time. It grates on me. It's the sort of wailing he does, and it's sort of there on Other Side. Yeah. But for some reason it doesn't bother me on this song.
It's not a bad song.
I love Can't Stop. That I think is a phenomenal song. I like, if I could delete their entire discography and keep one song, it would be Can't Stop. I'm pretty neutral on them other than that.
Do you have any bands that you listened to, say, 5-6 years ago that you can't stand now?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Not particularly, but there's definitely some songs where if it comes up on shuffle in my library, I'll be like, I don't really have any interest in listening to this song anymore. And it may have been something I liked that long ago, not anymore. As far as just bands as a whole, I don't know. I'd have to give that more thought.
Yeah, that's the one for me. It's a band that I absolutely loved and adored, and would listen to their music a lot, that I just can't anymore. Just can't do it. Yeah, Chili Peppers would be there for me. Yeah, interesting how our music taste buds change.
It really is. It really is.
So, what do you have planned for the rest of your week?
Well, I've got my Boston Celtics are in the NBA Finals, and I am extremely happy about that. Very much looking forward to Game 1 on Thursday.
Yep.
I could use like some good outcomes here in the series after.
I didn't bring it up.
Champions League.
I didn't bring it
up. I want to use my father's words when he called me after the Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid, in which Real Madrid won 1-0.
Yep.
He said, and I want to be so clear that these were his words, not mine. He said, Nick, the better team doesn't always win, so I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that anything, but I like the way my dad put it.
I didn't watch the game. I woke up and I looked at the score and I just sort of laughed and went back to sleep.
That team, that Real Madrid, just, they're so frustrating. I understand. I have a lot of friends who are Barcelona fans.
Yeah.
And I understand now. For years, they've been just completely bashing Real Madrid on every single level, just profusing like hate from every orifice towards Real Madrid. And I get it now. They're such a terrible, a frustrating team.
Okay, so here's what Liverpool did. They dominated possession like Barcelona. And what's the one team you don't want to dominate possession with? Is Real Madrid, because they're very good at soaking up possession and just hitting you on the counter. That's who they are.
God, oh man, I'm having flashbacks now. That's been Talking Soccer, brought to you by Just Hit Play.
It was a good game.
No soccer talk for a while. Seasons are over.
season is over, unless there's some big transfers.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, it was a good game. Our independent artist this week is King Shampz. Now, we have featured King Shampz before, and we love his music. And when I found out that he was dropping a new single, I quickly reached out and asked if we could play it. And luckily, King Shampz said yes. So this is the song Too Legit, which came out just a few days ago. King Shampz on the Just Hit Play podcast. Thank you, King Shampz. And we will talk to you next week.
Niggas lit, niggas sick, never slick, niggas too legit to quit, see the drips, see the flips, see the whips, niggas too legit.
Nothing is forgiven when you try to play a villain. Capture the feelings of those close range killers. Let them niggas burn, nigga, fuck the ice grilling. Pussy wait your turn, we confirm who we hitting. Organized crime, this the meeting of the minds. Diamonds make us blind, bury bodies in the mines. Too cold and as they toes made us gamble with souls. This game full of hoes, gotta stay in control. Pussy niggas fold, they just do it for the hoes. We do it for the dope, eliminate all foes. Keep your mouth closed, I was kissed by a rose. Those were sealed over stoves, making bread by the loaves. Was exposed to the game, trap performance in their brain. Billions cross my brain, that's a ride with the cane. Nothing was the same when a nigga took the oath. A hustler in my lane, that's why I'm pushing the ghost, nigga.
Niggas lit, niggas sick, never slick, niggas too legit to quit, see the drips, see the flips, see the whips, niggas too legit to quit, catch a lick, shoot a clip, move a brick, niggas too legit to quit, keep the grits, spit the bit, do the shit, niggas too legit.
This game make you emotional, even thugs cry, disciplined in my devotional. Hundreds dry my eyes, these streets are do or die, on my shoddy I rely. We too sturdy on these corners, only fake niggas die. Look me in my eyes, see visions of drive-bys. Money sky high with fine hoes by my side. Took my time, I realized I'm not like these guys. Slick as fashion while I'm blasting. Fuck with hoes with thick thighs. On these streets I reside, they'll never be gentrified. We getting the hipsters high on our product, they stand by. We move all the coke on these blocks, stories is wrote. Rifle with the scope, you can never be the GOAT. I'm Jordan to these Shamses, I make a nigga famous. Your bitch know what my name is, and speak the wave language. Haters watching anguish, so I keep a stainless. Play games if you want, leave your whole crew vanquished.
Niggas lit, niggas sick, never slick, niggas too legit to quit, see the drips, see the flips, see the whips, niggas too legit to quit, catch a lick, shoot a clip, move a brick, niggas too legit to quit, pick the grits, spit the bit, do the shit, niggas too legit.
You've been listening to Just Hit Play. To contact your hosts, Peter and Nick, or to be featured on an episode as musical talent, email justhitplay7300@gmail.com. Keep up to date with news and announcements by following on Instagram and Facebook, linked in the show notes. Subscribe on your favourite podcatcher to tune in next week for more sonic delights. And if you can't wait till then, check out the Just Hit playlist on Spotify, linked in the show notes. A special thanks to Braden Munch for the theme song, and thank you for listening.